Hey. Hey guys, my name's Daniel Ball. I'm a senior here, and this is my 2 words. First of all, I want to welcome you all and say thank you. I understand on a Thursday night, there's a lot more that you could be doing than standing here. And whether you came to see me, Bree, or Shayla, you took your time out on a Thursday night, turned down Milligan's Greek life, the sororities and fraternities, and you're standing here watching us three. I also understand that some of you are going to be here for SFP. Tonight is my 150th SFP. Yeah. So after tonight, technically, I'm spiritually formed. Any of you all that know me know that I love social media, and I've sat at the back of chapel a number of times tweeting and texting and doing things that you shouldn't do in chapel. I'm sorry, Brad. So tonight I want to do something a little bit different. My mum and dad will not believe what I'm doing. I mean, they really won't. They're 4,500 miles away, and I've told them for the last 2 or 3 weeks what I'm doing, and they still don't believe me. So this is my Twitter handle, all right? And sometime in the next 15 or 20 minutes, if I say something with you, if I say something that resonates with you, then take a picture of me. Make it somewhat artsy, so I can Instagram it later. But so then I can print screen it and send it to my mum and dad. Before I start, I do have a disclaimer as well, because I've been to 149 chapels. I know that the way that these things work. I'm not up here pretending to be someone that's perfect. I'm really not. I made mistakes last weekend. I made mistakes yesterday. I made mistakes today, and I'll make mistakes tomorrow. But the next 15 or 20 minutes, I suppose, is my story. I do have a shameless plug, and some of my professors are in the room right now, Dr. Bluin and Dr. Hoover, whoop whoop. My professors know that I hate reading, and I've made it to this point in Milligan, and she's laughing right now. I made it to this point in Milligan without buying a book for the last 2.5 years. Yeah. But I do love language. And what no one in this room knows is that for the last 20 years or so, a little bit less than that because I couldn't write when I was 2, but I've been writing a book, and this is my book. I suppose that my book is just an elongated version of tonight, and it will be in the bookstore next week. So if you all can take the time, sometime when you walk past the bookstore, to stop in. If you flick through the pages, you flick through the pages. If you read the words that are on the pages, that's fantastic. If you buy it, even better. But I will be incredibly grateful. For the next 15 or 20 minutes to work, you have to know a little bit about me, and then you can track my journey. So what I want to do now is lay down the foundations of who I am. Whether you know me for wearing the number 29 on the front of my shirt and being loud and obnoxious as I am on the field, or if you've seen me carrying a bright coloured backpack to class and I sit in class and pull stuff from nowhere having not read the book, the next 10, 15 minutes, I suppose, is the real me. There's probably only 1 or 2 people on this campus that know me for who I am, whether it be the good or the bad. I'm obviously not from this part of the world. I'm from England, and I come from a non-Christian family. And when I mean non-Christian, I mean about as non-Christian as it gets. Before I come to America, I never visited a church in my life. My mum and my dad and my sister do not believe in God. And when I say my family, I mean my extended family as well. So my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, every single person I can think of does not believe in God and thus have never attended a church. When Brad and I spoke about me doing this, I thought long and hard. And for the 2 or 3 people in this room that know me really well, they know that one problem that I have in life is that I often try to overcomplicate things. I thought long and hard about the 2 words that I would choose, and I kind of ran through this and that, and I came to a conclusion that the simpler my words, the more effective they will be, and hopefully they'll be applicable to you. So my first word is then, and that might appear very vague, but I want to talk about then in 2 senses of the word. Then in a sense that is 4 years ago, and prior I came to Milligan, and then in a 4 months ago, when my life took a twist that I couldn't really have foreseen. Anybody who knows me knows that now I'm Milligan's biggest proponent. But 4 years ago, when I decided to come to this school, Milligan was my last choice. I'd looked at a number of different academic institutions, East Tennessee State University being one, Barry University, which sits 25 minutes north of Miami, and the lifestyle there, I can guarantee you, would have been a little bit different. I looked at Granville University, who were 6th in NAIA soccer at the time. They're now 9th. And I looked at Monmouth University, which were a D1 outfit out of New Jersey, and their goalkeeper has just graduated, played for the US national team. My journey really begins, I suppose, when a guy called Adam Laney, who's my coach, sent me an email. I was playing a game on a Thursday night for Chatham Town, who was my team that I played for back home, and I walked in, and my mum answered the door. She said, "Dan, you've had a phone call from a guy called Adam." I said, I've not. I spoke to a guy called Adam. I spoke to a number of other coaches, but this guy called Adam appears to be somewhat new. Not did I know that 2 years later, 3 years later, he would have given me the opportunity to attend this institution that I now call home. I opened up my email and had a coach from this guy called Adam, and it said, hey, Dan, why don't you have a look around our website? We need a goalkeeper coming up for the next 4 years, and I think that you might be a good fit. So I opened up the email. I took my laptop downstairs, and my mum and dad, for the first time in their life, gave me their undivided attention. I sat in between my mum and dad, with my mum on my right-hand side, my dad on my left. And that sounds incredibly cliche, and I reminded of them of this earlier on, but that's the way it went down. I opened up the email and I clicked on the website, milligan.edu. And at the time, it was a somewhat primitive website. It wasn't the best and sexiest website, but it was somewhat primitive. And I'll always remember that this is how the next 5 or 10 minutes unfolded. We looked at the website, and at the top right-hand corner, it was the cross that sits on Derthick. And that is a beautiful cross, and Derthick is a beautiful area. But my mum immediately, without batting an eyelid, she said no. She said, I don't want you to go to an institution where they talk about this kind of stuff, because that is incredibly different to what we are about here. As soon as my mum could say no, my dad said yes. If you know my dad is an incredible man. And he said there's a lot of worse things you can do than go and experience something on the other end of the equilibrium. So for the next day or two, I thought about it, and I waited for the phone call from this guy called Adam. And this guy called Adam called. I remember saying, hey, Adam. He said, my name's Coach. I said, hey, Coach. On the phone, he said, Dan, I want to talk to you about money. I want to talk to you about money. I want to talk about the opportunity here at Milligan. But the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about the lifestyle that we lead here at Milligan, because Milligan is going to be different to what you've thought of. I said, Coach, talk to me. Like, I've got time for you, talk to me. I know there's 5 hours difference, but I can give you some time. He said, Dan, we don't drink. I said, Coach, I don't drink. He said, are you sure you're from England? I said, Coach, I promise you. I said, I promise you I don't drink. He said, Dan, here at Milligan, we don't do drugs. I said, Coach, I'm an athlete. I don't do drugs. He said, Dan, here at Milligan, we have rules. I said, rules? This could be where I change. I'll be looking at East Tennessee State, and I'll be looking at Barry University, and these two places, I can guarantee you, are very, very different to what they are here. He said, Dan, if you've got a girl in your room, you've got to leave the door open. I said, what? I said, that's like being at home. I said, I'm trying to get away from home. And over the next 2 or 3 days, I thought, can I live this lifestyle? You know, I want to become a man. I want to find who I am on this equilibrium that is life. And yeah, I suppose the long story cut short is that all my other options fell through. ETSU fell through, Grandview fell through, Monmouth fell through, and Barry fell through. Not because I wasn't good enough to go there, but because I hadn't sat my ACT. If there's anything you know about my coach, it is that he is notoriously laid back, like incredibly laid back. And all the other coaches were like saying, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go and find someone that we can nail down now. My coach, yeah, he's chill. And he kind of held out. Taking the ACT back home, there's only one place in the entire country you can take it. So I had to kind of wait for this one day to come up. I took the ACT and I got the score that I needed. So coming to Milligan for me was a last resort, and I'd done tons of research. If there's anything that the few people in this room that know about me is they know that when I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something pretty wholeheartedly, and the research that I'm going to do is intense. So before I come to America, I had Google mapped from Tri-Cities Airport to Johnson City and then to Milligan on the road, so I could see what this new place that I was going to be living in was like and how different it was going to be from Chatham, which is where I'm from. A guy called Ryan Green, who graduated Milligan when I was a freshman, and he was a senior, he picked me up from the airport, and he is probably one of the main reasons that I'm here. I met him in London a couple of months before I come out here, and he told me all the good that Milligan is and all the bad that Milligan is. And he picked me up from the airport, and I'll always remember I got in the car and I kind of recognized the roads that I was on because I'd seen it online, but I hadn't seen some of the things that you couldn't see from Google Maps. I'll always remember it was church, and 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 it was a little bit more church. I remember thinking, I've read online about Blue Hole and Laurel Falls and Dennis Cove and all these fantastic things, but I can't see them. I was driving down the road. I saw church after church after church after church. And I remember thinking, I knew that I was coming to the Bible Belt, and if there's anywhere in America that I was going to be, that was the Bible Belt, was here. But I didn't realize that I was land bang on the buckle of the belt. A couple of weeks later, One of my best friends I have two best friends in the world right now. One of them's in England and one of them's in America, and they are completely different. A guy called Colby, who graduated here 2 years ago, sent me a text. And I'll always remember, I said to my mum a couple of days prior to this text, Mum, we keep praying before games. I'm not sure what that's about. So we keep praying after games, we keep praying before practice, and Mum, we even pray for the away team to have a safe journey back. I remember saying, Mum, I don't care if they have a safe journey back, we beat them. Colby sent me a text, and at the time I had a horrendous phone. I mean, it was awful. It's $15 from Walmart. And I remember it coming up on the screen, Colby Robbins, but the screen was so small that it said Colby, and then I had to wait for Robbins to cut back round again. And it was at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. And I'll always remember saying, why is someone texting me at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday? This is my day for chilling. I opened the text and it said, and I remind her of this every time I see him, because I don't see him too often now. It said, Dan, we're going to church. If you want to come, we'd love for you to come. And if you don't want to come, you don't have to come. I remember laying there, thank God, I don't have to get out of bed. He said, I don't have to come. I laid there for 10 or 15 minutes. I was like, but he's gone out of his way to keep me included. And he knew that I was different. So I went to church. I went to church the week after that, and I went to church the week after that. And then I stopped going to church for a period of time. I suppose now I want to kind of change gears and move to 4 months ago, when my life really kind of changed. This was just before I went home for the summer. After 3 years of acclimatization and me realizing that people praying here was the norm, I started attending a church. I'd been to a number of churches in my time, not through my own intentionality. It was usually because coach made us go at the start of pre-season, and I'd been to a number of different churches. The reason I started attending church wasn't through my own intentionality. Libby Bartlett and Andrew Humber asked me to keep going, and I woke up one Sunday and I had a text saying, we're going to go to church with Libby and Andrew, and I said, okay, that's not a problem, I'll go with you. I turned up to this church, and my pastor over there is Robert, he's the main man. I walked in, and I'd been to a number of different churches in my time. I'd been to Redeemer, and Redeemer's music was fantastic, but whenever the pastor started speaking, it went over my head. I can speak a couple of different languages, but none of these things that he was saying, like the word testimony and the word saved, were sinking in. I walked into this church, I'm going to be real, Robert. I'll always remember thinking, wow, this music is awful. I did. And I remember thinking, there are pews, this is like being back home. But when the guy started speaking, and the guy just happens to be sitting over there, it resonated with me. And I understand that that is church in general, that you're meant to be able to go to church on a Sunday, and no matter what's going on in your life, take something away. But something about what the man sitting over there said really, really, really gripped me. I kept on going to church for a period of time, and I was dipping in and out, and I'd had experiences with people in the church paying for my dinner and stuff. It was fantastic, and I reached a bit of a low point before I went home for the summer, and I called the one person in this country that I know is going to have something in common with me. I called Lisa. Lisa's a women's soccer coach here at Milligan, and she's like my mother away from my real mother. Whilst we have a different accent and we're from different parts of the country, she is there for me when times get tough. And I was in a bit of a weird spot. I said, Lisa, can we go for a drive? And she said, yeah, we can go for a drive. So we drove for a real long time, and we got lost. But on the way, I said, Lisa, I'm doing these things, and I feel like I believe in God. I do believe in God, but I'm not all too sure as to what a Christian is. And every single person that's professing to be a Christian is doing these different things. I was like, is there not just a benchmark that I can have? Because then I can measure myself as a Christian. And I always remember, and I remember a lot about a lot of stuff, but I always remember Lisa's response. Lisa said, similar to what I said at the start of this, you don't need to complicate it. It's super simple. I was looking and basing my view of a Christian off all these other secondary things. And she said, do you believe that God sent his son Jesus and he died for our sins? I said, yeah, I believe that. She was like, it's as simple as that. She was like, don't get bogged down by all these secondary things, because they don't make you a Christian, they make you Christ-like, which is what you want to strive to be. But in the very essence of the word, being a Christian is super simple. I remember getting out of the car after crying with Lisa and thinking, wow, like, if it is that simple, then I think I am. I think I'm a Christian. Another fantastic person in my life at Milligan, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, is Mark Fox. From day one, Mark knows exactly what I'm talking about. From day one, Mark and I have had some weird relationship. On the class hadn't even started. It was 3 days before class had started, and Mark Fox was outside of Webb Hall with a PA system shouting. What was you shouting, Mark? It was Dan Bar. Yeah, see, I remember thinking, there you go. And I remember thinking, man, I've heard about this guy, and I'm in trouble already. Class has not even started. I'd been out for breakfast with Mark once last semester when times got a bit tough, and I knew that going home for the summer was going to be tough with regards to my spiritual growth. In the last 3 or 4 years, I'd ebbed and I'd flowed, I'd been up and I'd been down, and I finally felt like I'd reached a point where my spiritual growth was on the way up, and going home, I can guarantee you, was going to pull that down. And Mark and his beautiful wife bought me a book called Jesus Calling, which is like a morning devotional book. You wake up in the morning, you read the Bible on your phone, and then you read the book and you kind of tie it together. And for 70, 80% of the summer, that's what I did. I woke up every morning and I read what I should be reading, and it kind of correlated. The summer for me was an interesting time. A number of things happened this summer. I lost my nan, which was kind of wrenching, but also at the same time beautiful, because my praying for her, I felt like genuinely helped. And I wouldn't have said that 3 or 4 years ago. I suppose if my first word is then my second word should really be now. Now, I am a Christian. Now, I am content with my faith. I'm content with where I'm at. I'm content with the journey that I've been on over the last 22 years, but also over the last 3 or 4 years. In the summer, I was with my family at my nan's wake, and my sister and I, we're different to say the least, but we're sitting down, and all of my cousins surrounded myself. And they said, Dan, we need to talk to you. And I said, what's this going on? Like, what have you all got to say? And I've got a lot of cousins, and some of them can be quite intimidating. I was sitting in the middle of the circle, and they said, we need you to know that we are incredibly proud of the person that you become. I said, what kind of person will I become? And I said, well, nowadays you post Bible verses online. I was like, yeah, you're right, I should. Yeah, wow. And I was like, fantastic, and I shed a little tear. My mum, and mum, when you see this, I'm sorry, my mum is still a little bit apprehensive of the person that I've become because of this place. She loves this place, and she loves the boy that, well, I suppose I'm a boy to her. She loves the boy that I am, but she still struggles with it. My dad, on the other hand, couldn't be more supportive. Now I attend church regularly, and while I didn't go to church this Sunday, Robert, I'm sorry, I would love to become more active in the church. I just want to do it at my own pace. I don't want to fake it. In March, I met a guy who was one of the most inspirational men that I've ever met, and he was incredibly active in the church, and that's something that I would love to replicate. I suppose now, if I told you 3 months ago or 3 years ago that I'd be speaking in an event like this, I would have laughed. And I told Andy Stewart, who was a senior when I was a freshman here, that I'd be speaking at an event like this, and he sent me back a text, one word, saying, wow. I was like, wow as well. I couldn't believe it. So I suppose now that I've gone through then, and I've gone through now, I should round it up, and I should tell you what my point is. Well, this rudimentary book doesn't exist. I don't have a book, but what I do have is a 22-year-old story. What I didn't show you about my book is that it has no back cover. And the reason it has no back cover is because every day I wake up and I write the words that fill the paragraphs, and the paragraphs that fill the pages, and the pages that fill the chapters of my life, but I do so at my own speed. One thing I didn't show you about my book, and this took me a long time to realize, and I only really realized it probably 6 to 8 weeks ago, is that just like in the human body, that everything comes off the spine of my life is faith. And it had been for a long time. One of my best friends, my best friend back home, Matt, I went home this summer and I said, Matt, I think we need to talk. I said, you need to know that I think that I'm a Christian. He said, Dan, am I meant to be shocked by this? I said, I think you should be, because before I left, I wasn't exhibiting Christian traits. He said, Dan, I'm not surprised by this. You always was going that direction, but going to Milligan and living in the place that you're living has only served as a catalyst. So what am I asking of you? That in a world where we are dominated by speed, where we check our Instagrams and our Twitters, and we love our internet to be super quick, Take time to slow down. And if you wake up in the morning and you went to bed at night and you only added one letter to your page, it doesn't matter. But if you went to bed and you added a word or a paragraph or a page or a chapter, then fantastic. But everybody's writing their own story, and they're doing so at their own pace. And it truly doesn't matter how fast we are writing it, because we're doing it and we're heading in the same direction. So I want to say thank you for listening to me, listening to the two other girls. And I've only ever prayed in front of one other person before, but I would love to pray in front of you all. All right? So if I could close in a word of prayer, I'd be incredibly grateful. Father God, I thank you for this institution that so many of us call home. It's a beautiful opportunity to come together, both in the classroom, on the field, socially, in the dorms, and in relationships. I pray that you look over us for the duration of this semester and beyond. And when times get tough, because they will get tough, let us separate ourselves and understand that the speed at which we're traveling our life, it doesn't matter how fast or slow it is. All that matters is that we are heading in the right direction. And I suppose the perspective that I'm coming at from now is the direction is towards you. So I pray that when times get tough, you're there, and that everybody does so to glorify you. It's in your name that I pray. Amen. Thank you.